Good evening. Welcome to the Lewiston City Council meeting, Monday, March 23rd, 2015. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our next item of business is citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the city manager. And in consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have any citizen comments this evening? Please come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
Right here? My name is Darrell Scott. I live at 1535 Quail Run Drive in the Lewiston Orchards. I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to speak, and I would also like to thank them for the sign they put out warning us of a rezoning issue, and that's on Warner Avenue. I would suggest in the future that the sign be bigger in case this come up again. There would be more people here if it were a little bit bigger. We bought in that neighborhood because it was, like much of the Orchards, a residential, quiet, peaceful neighborhood. And if this goes to low-density housing, we are going to see an increase in traffic. We are going to see an increase in people. There will be people wandering around that will have no business there. And that's the nature of apartments. There's nothing wrong with that. I used to live in an apartment. It's just that that is not an appropriate addition for this area. And I would strongly urge the council to disapprove this rezoning request and keep it the way it is for, I think it's zoned for farming and single houses. There are some new houses that have gone up there, which are just fine. And I believe that's all. If anybody has any questions for me.
No, but Mr. Scott, if you want to stick around for the public hearing, I think you'll find out what's really going to be going on up there.
Okay.
It'll fit in.
Yes.
Yes.
No, you're not.
Oh.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, his comments are directed to the public hearing.
Yes.
And so either consider those comments at that time and have him restate his comments as a part of the
Okay.
public hearing, or
I'm sorry.
bring him back to ask his questions at that time, if you will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for I should have mentioned that if you're here for the
Sorry to
public
be so
hearing.
rough.
No, that's fine. Any other citizen comments this evening
Any other citizen comments that are not
related
regarding
to the public hearing?
on the annexation development?
Thank you. Okay. Other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. I'd entertain a motion to amend the agenda under public hearings and presentations. We've been given a couple of proclamations. These were kind of a couple of last-minute items that didn't make it on our agenda, so with the council's pleasure. Yes.
I so move.
Second. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So I guess we'll start off with our first proclamation. And this has been brought to us by the CASA program here in town. It's a proclamation that states, whereas every day in this country, 1,900 children become the victims of abuse and neglect, and 4 of them will die. And the majority of these cases can be prevented when community programs and systems are engaged. And a community that cares about early childhood development and parental support is more likely to foster nurturing families and healthy children. And court-appointed special advocates, CASA for Children, is a network of 951 community-based programs that recruit, train, and support citizen volunteers to advocate for the best interests of abused and neglected children in courtrooms and communities. And the 2nd Judicial District CASA program of Lewiston, Idaho, provides court-appointed special advocates to represent all abandoned, abused, or neglected children so that they may ultimately find a safe, supportive, and permanent home. And April was first declared Child Abuse Prevention Month by presidential proclamation in 1983 to acknowledge the importance of families and communities working together to prevent child abuse. Now therefore, the City Council and the City of Lewiston does hereby proclaim the month of April 2015 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Lewiston. Do we have some representatives from CASA here? Would you like to come down and say a couple words?
Thank you so much. First of all, we would like to thank you immensely for giving us this opportunity to come and speak with you and for making this proclamation. We feel that it's very important in our community as child abuse from where we are sitting is increasing every year. Right now, the past year, we've served over 200 children that have been abused and neglected here in our community. And we feel that the public awareness is going to help stemmy the problem and make people more aware of what is happening in our communities, and that we need to be more aware and we need to be more supportive and be out helping our children. So thank you very much for this, and we appreciate it so much. Thank you.
You bet. And thanks for all you do. Is there an event coming up?
We have several events coming up. Please watch our Facebook page and our webpage, but we will also be in Brackenberry Square on April 1st, having a community event and going over National Child Abuse Prevention Month and some things that we can do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next proclamation is pertaining to the Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in the City of Lewiston. And this states, whereas from August 1964 to March 30th, 1973, 3,403,100 military personnel served in the Southeast Asia Theater, including Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, flight crews based in Thailand, and sailors in the adjacent South China Sea waters. And 58,156 military personnel lost their lives. 75,000 were classified as severely disabled, and out of those, 216 members of the armed forces from Idaho were killed, 8 declared missing in action, and approximately 42,810 Vietnam veterans currently live in Idaho. And whereas members of the United States Armed Forces who served bravely and faithfully for the United States during the Vietnam War were, upon their return home, caught in the crossfire of public debate about this involvement of the United States in the Vietnam War, and thus denied the appropriate public gratitude and honor for their sacrifice and service. And Public Law 110-181, Section 598, the National Defense Authorization Act of 2008, authorizes the Secretary of Defense to conduct a program to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, including the designation of local government partners, events, and activities. And such activities are designed to finally thank and honor veterans of the Vietnam War for their service and sacrifices on behalf of the veterans of the United States, and to also acknowledge the commitment and sacrifices made by their families. And such service and sacrifices continue to this day by men and women who wear our country's uniform and serve wherever they are deployed, accompanied by our duty to understand and acknowledge their service and to welcome them home. And whereas the City of Lewiston will commemorate and honor the services and sacrifices of Idaho veterans of the Vietnam War and their families on March 27, 2015, and encourages participation in activities and ceremonies that promote recognition of the service and foster understanding of our responsibility to assist them in returning to civilian life in our community. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Lewiston does hereby proclaim March 2017 to be Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in the City of Lewiston. And I see we have a Vietnam veteran here and our city attorney, so I'll present this to them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As those of you who lived during the Vietnam War era understand the words that are written here and the importance of welcoming home at this time, as late as it is, welcoming home Vietnam veterans. The reason that we have chosen the March 27th date is that we will be, in honor of Vietnam veterans and welcoming home Vietnam veterans, be commemorating that with a showing of a movie named Bravo. It's about the siege of Khe Sanh. The chief was a survivor of Khe Sanh. It's a movie that was made by 2 Idaho residents. It's been nominated for Documentary of the Year for Idaho Film Association, and it just commemorates not only Vietnam, but the siege of Khe Sanh, and it's a way of welcoming Vietnam veterans back. The movie will be a fundraiser for the Veterans Treatment Court, which the city helped sponsor, and it will be held, it was originally scheduled for the Williams Conference Center. It will be held at the Sacagawea Hall, which is the nursing building here at the LCSC campus, in room 115. It's scheduled for 6 to 9 p.m. There will be some refreshments. We'll show the movie. There'll be a panel discussion with Vietnam veterans. And Ken and Betty Rogers, who are the makers of the film, will be present. There'll be copies of the film available that they will sell if anybody's interested. All of our veterans organizations will be present, and so we hope it'll be a good celebration for all. I know if the chief would like to say anything. I speak as an observer. He speaks as a survivor. So.
I speak because you grabbed me as you walked down here. Thank you, Jamie. What I would just add about the video and the event this coming Friday night is that it's not just for veterans. It's for anyone that would like to learn and see and in a controlled, safe environment kind of experience some of that through this video, because a large portion of the video is actual footage from the Siege of Khe Sanh. And so I think anyone that's a historian or a military historian or anyone that just wants to know what the heck was going on in 1968 would enjoy the video. So please come and attend, and certainly it's worthwhile to the Veterans Mentor Program, which has been so successful under Jamie's coordination and implementation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, that concludes our proclamations. Next item up is a public hearing. This is dealing with an annexation, a comprehensive plan amendment, zone change, and a request for a public utility or a planned unit development. So it's public hearing ANX 15-000001, CPA 15-00001, ZNC/PUD 15-000001. It's a request to annex approximately 8.5 acres, assign a low-density residential comprehensive plan land use designation to the same land, and rezone it from F1 farm and R1 suburban residential to planned unit development. An additional land area of approximately 9 acres adjacent to the 8.5 acres requested for annexation and already in the city limits is also requested to be rezoned from R2A low-density residential to planned unit development. These requests are accompanied by a request for preliminary subdivision plat approval to create approximately 42 new building lots in the associated 17.5 acres on the north side of Warner Avenue, where it intersects with 15th Street and 16th Street. Mr. Plaskin, would you like to start?
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. I guess I'd like to start by giving a summary of the staff report on these applications, and just by stating as a reminder that there are multiple elements to this request, and the council is asked to render decisions on each of them, separate decisions on annexation, comprehensive plan, land use designation assignment, rezoning, and preliminary plats. So at the end of this, there are 4 separate actions that the council is being asked to take. As far as the summary of the staff report goes, there is a discrepancy I'd like to point out in the total acreage of the project area. The total project area was believed to be approximately 17.5 acres. I met with the applicant's engineer this morning, and discovered that the total project area is closer to 13.5 acres, so I just wanted to point that out. It's smaller than what was originally represented, although the number of lots that are being proposed is the same. I also wanted to mention that there's a co-applicant. The primary applicant for this request is DK Holdings, and they are the developers of the project proposal. But because the project proposal would fully surround an existing lot owned by the Lewiston Orchards Irrigation District and create a county island, Lloyd decided to join the application simply so as not to create a county island situation for their property. However, they're not going to be developing anything. The property in question, with the exception of Lloyd's lot, is vacant farmland. The Lloyd lot has on it right now public facilities, including a water well, a well house, transformer, water valve unit, and a telemetry tower. The lands to the north and to the east and to the west are currently undeveloped lands, and the lands to the south are primarily single-family residential. Those parts of the lands that you're looking at, and I'm going to go over a number of maps I'll put up on the screen here in a few minutes. Those parts of the lands in question that are not currently located in the city limits are in the Lewiston Area of City Impact Comprehensive Plan, Neighborhood 8D, and designated on the land use map for that part of the comprehensive plan as low-density residential. Matter of fact, all the lands as part of this project are designated by the comprehensive plan for low-density residential. The comprehensive plan density range for low-density residential is 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. There are some statements in the comprehensive plan that are relevant to this application in considering a rezone, which is one of the things you're being asked to do tonight, is rezone land. One of the most important considerations is whether or not the rezoning of the land is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And so there are a number of statements in the comprehensive plan shown on page 5 of the staff report that are relevant to that issue. The comprehensive plan says that this area is the future growth center of the community, that residential development north and east of 14th Street and Warner Avenue should be accomplished via planned unit development, which is part of this request. That urban density development should not be permitted until the property is annexed, which is part of this request, and provided with adequate public infrastructure. So water, public water, and sewer are part of the proposal. The comprehensive plan says that ideal development of the area would be in the form of a traditional neighborhood pattern, that there should be a mixture of housing types and densities, with higher densities near the main streets and lower densities near the terrain breaks and ravines. There are ravines in this area. There's actually one that runs along the west side of the property in question. Says that a planned unit development should allow for a small 1-acre commercial lot for local goods and services, preferably located along Warner Avenue. I want to point out that that is an element that's in the comprehensive plan that's not part of the applicant's proposal. The comprehensive plan says that ravines are a resource to be protected for drainage and wildlife habitat purposes, as well as for pedestrian and bicycling purposes. It says that ravine protection should allow for a density bonus to the developer. So those are parts of the comprehensive plan that relate to the property that's not currently in the city limits. As far as the land that's part of this project that already is in the city limits, it's also designated for low-density residential development. Again, suggested density range of 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. And that land that's currently in the city limits is in Comprehensive Plan Neighborhood Number 6. It's called the Central Orchards. And the plan for that neighborhood identifies the fact that it is primarily built out, that there is limited infill development opportunity. It also calls for protection of drainage ways and open space preservation. It calls for upgraded stormwater infrastructure, upgraded streets, and it says that high-quality new development around existing and future public parks is appropriate. It also says, in Land Use Objective 14.4, that development of lands in excess of 5 acres, such as what's proposed, be done by planned unit development. And again, a PUD is part of the applicant's proposal. So based on that information and staff review of the project proposal, it appears that the proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Because of the change in the size of the project area, the acreage that I mentioned a few minutes ago, I want to point out then that the densities that are listed on page 5 and 6 of the staff report are in need of amendment. And so if you wanted to update those, on the bottom of page 5 of the staff report, it says that if the 42 lots are developed with single-family homes, that would equate to a density of approximately 2.4 dwelling units per acre gross. That figure would change to 3.13 units per acre. That's the gross acreage under a single-family only scenario. If all of the lots in the proposal that are large enough to accommodate duplexes were developed with duplexes, this is going over onto the top of page 6 of the staff report now, then the resulting gross density would have been 3.0 units per acre is what the staff report says. Based on the amended total project area, that figure would change to approximately 3.9 units per acre. And then it gives respective densities for net density as opposed to gross. And those numbers would change from 3.7 to 4.4 and from 4.7 to 6.6. And if you recall the density range that I talked about earlier associated with the comprehensive plan low density residential designation, those numbers are all within or under that range. Those parts of the project area that are requested for annexation, not in the city limits yet, are zoned F1 in the area of city impact and R1. They're two separate zones. The part of it that's not in the city yet and zoned F1, that's a 20-acre minimum lot size, and the part of it that's not in the city yet and zoned R1, that's got a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size on it. Those parts of the project area already in the city limits are currently zoned R2A. That's a minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet. So because of the very strong language in the comprehensive plan about planned unit development process for new development in this part of the city or the community, the applicant and the city have drafted a planned unit development agreement, which is in effect the zoning that would govern the property. So it covers the allowable land uses, it covers the minimum lot size standards, it covers the maximum allowable building height, parking requirements, building setbacks, all the things that you normally see in a zoning district. We have tuned all of those matters through a planned unit development agreement so that it could go through the planned unit development process. There is a draft PUD agreement in your packet. I'm not going to go through all the details of that agreement, although I'd be happy to answer questions about it if you have any. I want to talk a little bit about the subdivision part of this request, the preliminary plat that you're being asked to approve. And we'll look at a map of that in just a minute. The lots that are proposed range in size from 6,940 square feet on the small end to 35,960 square feet on the high end. So that's quite a range in lot size that are proposed, and I want to ask you to remember that the comprehensive plan is calling for a mix and a range of housing type and density, which these proposed lots are consistent with, I believe. The average lot size proposed is approximately 10,000 square feet. That's a very standard lot size for city or urban type development and not out of character with the existing neighborhood. Let's see here. As part of the development proposal, 15th Street, where it currently intersects with Warner Avenue, would be extended north into the subject property. That's on the west end of the project area. And then on the east end, 16th Street, where it currently intersects with Warner Avenue, would extend north into the subject property at the project area's east end. And then there would be 2 east-west cul-de-sac streets constructed from the east and the west ends inward to the middle of the project area to serve the inner lots. The land in question is very flat. Slopes average about 3%, although, like I said earlier, there is a fairly substantial drainage way alongside but outside of the west edge of the project area. There's discussion in the staff report about the possibility of requiring an easement and an improved pedestrian path along the west side of the project where the drainage is located. I do want to point out that the Planning and Zoning Commission held their hearing on all of this, and at the end of that, in part of their recommendation that the City Council approve these requests, they did not include that as a condition of approval and did not recommend that that be part of the project at this time. And the applicant can talk about it in more detail, but I think the primary reason for that was because it was thought best to provide that access and pedestrian trail at a later stage of development, a little bit further to the north than the current project area. So that's a summary of the staff report. I'd like to go to some aerial photographs, maps, and some pictures now, if I could. This is an aerial photograph. North is up. This is Warner Avenue. This is 15th Street. This is 16th Street. And the project area is bolded in black right here. This is a ravine drainage way on the west side, abutting the west side of the project area. And then there's one further to the east that doesn't abut the project area. This is a photocopy of a portion of the comprehensive plan map. Comprehensive plan neighborhood number 6 is located right here. North again is up on this, and this is Warner Avenue right here. The area that you're being asked to approve for annexation, comp plan designation, rezone, and subdivision is right here in the middle of this map. It's highlighted in yellow. It might be a little difficult to see. But I just wanted to show you that the project area is currently in Area of City Impact Neighborhood 8D of the comprehensive plan. And because it's being asked to be annexed, it needs to be incorporated into a different comprehensive plan neighborhood because it's not going to be part of the Area of City Impact anymore. And so it can either go into neighborhood number 6, which abuts it to the south. It could potentially go into neighborhood number 7, which is this area over here. Although if that were to be the case, it would miss the majority of the project area. If we extended the boundary common between these two comp plan neighborhoods straight north, it would miss most of it. So we're proposing that it go into comprehensive plan neighborhood number 6. I just wanted to point that out to you. This is a a printout of a portion of the city's zoning map. Actually, it's the city and the county zoning map. North again is up. This is Warner Avenue. The project area is bolded in black. And this area here is currently not in the city limits, and it's zoned F1 area of city impact. That's a 20-acre minimum lot size. This portion of the project area is currently in the city limits. It's currently zoned R2A, 7,500 square foot minimum lot size. And this part of the project area on the east end, not in city limits right now, is zoned R1 area of city impact. That's a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. So the development within the city to the south is all in the R2A zone, 7,500 square foot minimum lot size. And again, the request is to rezone the whole thing to PUD, or at least the project area for the new development would be zoned PUD, and the average lot size would be approximately 10,000 square feet. This is the preliminary subdivision plat proposal. North is up. This is Warner Avenue. This is 15th Street. This is 16th Street. And the proposal is to extend 15th Street to the north thusly, with a few small lots on the west side and a few very large lots behind them. Construct a cul-de-sac street easterly in the middle of the project area, with lots on either side, north and south. On the east end, similarly, 16th Street would be extended north, 15 to 16,000 square foot lots on the east side of it. Construct another east-west cul-de-sac toward the center of the property with smaller lots ranging in size from 7,000 to 13,000 square feet on the north and south sides of it. So that's what the street and the lot configuration would look like. Lastly, I'm just going to show you some actual photographs of the area, current conditions. This is a photograph looking west down Warner Avenue from the west side of the project area. This is looking east down Warner Avenue from the west side of the project area. This is looking north, where 15th Street would be built to city standard up into the project area, so there would be lots on the east and the west sides of a newly constructed 15th Street, basically over this existing gravel road. This is looking west from 15th Street extended in the southwest corner of the project area. This is looking north from Warner Avenue at an existing dirt trail for which there is no pedestrian or public easement. This is looking west-northwest along the drainage that runs along the west side of the project area. This is looking east from 15th Street extended toward the center of the project area. This is on the east end of the project area now, looking west along Warner Avenue. These homes are in the city limits now on the north side of Warner. This is looking north, where 16th Street would be extended into the project area. This is also looking north from 16th Street extended, but this picture is just taken further north than the last one I showed you. This is looking east from 16th Street extended, so the part of the project area that's not in the city limits and zoned R1 is this ground here. This is looking west from 16th Street extended in toward the center area of the project where the cul-de-sac would be constructed. And that's it. That concludes my summary of the project proposal. I'll be happy to answer questions now and or later.
Anybody have any questions for Joel? Councilor Randall.
On the very west end, where you have the drainage, have we done a suitability study for construction in that area according to our subdivision standard?
I don't believe so. My understanding is that the drainage itself will be left undisturbed with the exception of the top of the slope, which would be filled a little bit for the larger flag lots on the west side of 15th Street extended. But I think that the applicant could probably talk about that in a little bit more depth than I could. The way I understand it, the ravine and drainage way regulations of the zoning code would not be triggered by what's being proposed.
Councilor Blakey.
Once the development, if the development is approved and once something starts there, would the developer be responsible for curbs, gutters, sidewalks on Warner, or would that be one of these fee in lieu, or would it be a fee in lieu, or at this point in time, it's just too early to discuss that?
Public Works staff can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that this applicant would only be responsible for curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements for his property's frontage on Warner Avenue. But yes, for that frontage, he would be required to do curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
And in lieu of doing that, could the developer do a fee in lieu instead?
I can't answer that question. Maybe Public Works staff present tonight might be able to answer it.
Okay. I was just curious if we're empowered to say, we want that developed, in other words, we want to have that put in, not paid off, in other words.
My understanding is that that's typically at the discretion of the Public Works Director, but we'll let Mr. Hayhurst be a little bit more definitive.
I don't know if we're going to extend it.
In this case, I do not believe that the city engineer or the Public Works Director wanted to approve the option of the fee in lieu of. But I'm at a loss. I don't know the details of that, and maybe the applicant could speak more to it, too.
Right, because there are existing sidewalks, or there is existing curb work there, yeah.
Yes, the existing subdivision along Warner has curbs and sidewalks all the way along.
So we'd have continuity.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Randall.
in the plat, it shows you have short streets with cul-de-sacs. Doesn't that go against our subdivision standard, 32-32? And it talks about half streets down at the very last paragraph, where it says half streets within the subdivision boundaries shall be discouraged. And we've also had this conversation with the county concerning the area of impact. And if we start allowing half streets on new developments being annexed into the city, then we're setting ourselves up for not having a very good argument with the county when we're trying to get them to set up subdivisions within the area of impact that don't have half streets.
May I respond to that?
Yeah.
Certainly.
My understanding of the subdivision code is that the proposal that you're being asked to approve tonight is consistent with the subdivision code allowances and regulations. The subdivision code does allow cul-de-sacs. It has standards for cul-de-sacs. We have standard drawings for the construction of cul-de-sacs, for the design of the cul-de-sacs. We have, I believe, maximum lengths that are specified as being allowed for cul-de-sacs, and these do not exceed those lengths. My understanding is that the reference to half streets that Councilor Randall was referring to has to do with the construction of half the width of a street, and does not relate to a street being a cul-de-sac or not.
Yeah, because this is a 54-foot right-of-way right here that I'm looking at in the drawing, so it obviously meets a higher standard than the street I live on. Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, don't go too far, gentlemen. Is the applicant here? Like to come down and give us your spiel.
My name's Dan Young. I live at 1055 Richardson, Lewiston. I don't really have a prepared presentation. I think Joel covered the nuts and bolts of the subdivision. This is not my first time standing at this microphone, so we've kind of figured out how to work cooperatively with the city. We did do a PUD, however, most of the subdivision requirements have been met with the exception of a couple lots that are smaller. That was the main reason for doing the PUD. Other than that, all the street standards, stormwater, curb, sidewalk, and gutter, all meet city standards for subdivisions.
Questions for Mr. Young? So basically, what you're proposing is similar to what we've seen up at the estates at Canyon Crest, even though you didn't develop it, but you built up there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And just so everybody's clear on this, a typical R2A lot would be a minimum of 7,500 square feet, and you have how many?
We have a couple
that are
lots that are under that.
Okay.
I believe we have 3 that are under that.
Yeah, well, because I was just looking at some of the lot sizes here, and they're all substantially larger than that, so.
And that was sort of the compromise, you know. If you look at the big picture, if you separate out the zoning, and there's 3 different zones that we're dealing with, we kind of have a hodgepodge of what's going on. You know, there's not consistency in the lot sizes that we're butting up against, which makes it very challenging to put uniform streets in. You know, the Lloyd property juts out, and then the 2 properties at the east along 16th Street jut out, which made it difficult to just put a street straight through the middle of it. So we had to get creative in how we figured out how to deal with those challenges. As far as the sidewalk goes, we did purchase the lot 7 along Warner, which I think you can see that. And we're building a house there right now, and we've actually poured the curb and gutter and sidewalk. And so you can start from 16th and walk all the way to the edge of the Lloyd property on sidewalk, finished sidewalk. And we will be extending that same sidewalk down to the end of the property to the west. Once you get down to the end of the property on the west, we do have a 20-foot stormwater easement that we're setting aside because we do know that water is running through there, and the engineering staff requested that, and we agreed that makes sense to us. There's already water running through there. It's a natural ravine. It didn't make any sense to try to fight that. So we went ahead and left that intact.
Councilor Blakey.
An example of the neighborhood, what the future neighborhood might look like would be an example up there by Walker Field, the development up there that you did. Is that Peachtree or?
That was Preston Park, or Cherry Tree. Cherry
Yes.
Tree. Mm-hmm.
That would be a fair example of what the neighborhood might look like in the finished product, because that's a cul-de-sac.
That's a cul-de-sac, and yes is the answer to that. The lots are very similarly sized. In fact, some of the lots, the average lot size on Cherry Tree is much smaller than these lots will be by average. There were several lots there that were right at 7,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. Whereas here we only have a couple that are going to be at that 7,000 square feet area. But that is our goal. We did the same thing at 11th and Burrell. That's the Peachtree subdivision. And then the Cherry Tree one as well. We've just found that consumers prefer a private type street rather than arterial or a flow-through street when they're trying to back in and back out. We've got kids playing, that kind of stuff. We've just found that it's more attractive to homeowners to have a street that the people that are driving on that street are the people that live there. They kind of get their own community that develops within that area. And then we don't want to have parking problems. So we probably could have fought the city standard because it was a PUD agreement and got that street to be a little smaller and only done a single lane of parking. But we went ahead and made the right-of-way 54 feet. So there's 2 travel lanes and parking on both sides of the street.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Young? Thank you, sir. Okay. At this point in time, we'll go ahead and open this public hearing. Can we take testimony on all of it, Jamie, or?
I'm sorry.
Going to open the public hearing?
Yes,
We can take testimony on any one of these items
that's
in
correct.
particular?
Yeah, the order in which you approve them has to be with annexation first and then
Yeah,
zoning, but you can take testimony on all of it.
okay. Do we have anybody willing to speak in favor of this subdivision? Or opposed? How about anybody willing to speak? Come on down, sir.
Daryl Scott, 1535 Quail Run Drive. I actually only raised my hand halfway up because I'm not really opposed to it right now. If the plat that he put up there is the way it's going to be developed, we in our neighborhood wouldn't really have too much of a problem. It looks as though Warner Avenue is going to be filled with houses all the way along, which no one has ever had any objection to. I'm wondering why the low-density residential classification is then necessary if those are all just single-family homes, unless I misunderstood this plat.
No, I don't think you did. It's just changing the zoning, which could have been R2A, which is where you're on Quail Run Drive.
Yes,
Be a fairly similar development, because you're on a cul-de-sac also.
yes.
Similar development to that, but because there are a couple of lots that are below that 7,500 square foot threshold, correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, that would preclude it from being R2A.
I see.
So if you go to PUD, it allows them a couple of lots that are smaller than 7,500,
Okay.
but they won't be little postage stamp lots either.
So the apartment buildings, if they do develop at some point, will be further to the north on the rim of the canyon, if that happens.
I think that'll be sometime down the road, but that's not part of what we're discussing tonight. is the only
That wouldn't
thing.
be an issue because they'd be buffered from us by all the houses that are along Warner anyway, so,
I would think.
okay. Thank you. Go ahead and build it.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Anybody else wish to speak in favor or against this proposal? Okay, seeing none, guess we'll go ahead and close this public hearing. Mr. Young, do you have any further comments? Okay. Joel?
I just wanted to point out that the draft PUD agreement does have an allowance for multifamily residential construction for apartments, as is common in a lot of our single-family residential zones, depending on the density. So theoretically, apartments could be constructed based on the PUD agreement. The plat that's being proposed, however, does not include lots that are large enough to accommodate apartments. So I just wanted to point that out. We used our other zoning districts as a template for drafting the PUD zoning, and many of those standard zones do allow, in some circumstances, if conditions are met, that apartments can be constructed, and so that carried over into the PUD agreement for this project. So I want to point that out, and just mention that staff's recommendation and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation is that the City Council approve the annexation that the city council approve the comprehensive plan land use designation assignment of low-density residential, that the city council approve the rezone from F1, R1, and R2A to PUD, and that the city council approve the preliminary subdivision plat.
Okay. Just for council's information, say in an R2A zone, if somebody wanted to build a duplex, it's not 7,500 square feet, it's 10,000 square feet.
In an R2A zone, that's correct.
Yeah, and there are plenty of,
In this PUD zone, the single-family residential lot size is smaller than 7,500 square feet, and the duplex lot size is smaller than 10,000 square feet. In this PUD zone, the minimum lot size for a duplex would be 9,000 square feet as opposed to 10,000 square feet.
okay. Councilor Randall.
A question on your agreement, Joel, you have written under your conditional uses permitted, talking about multifamily dwellings shall meet the standards of section 37-124.1, where the density does not exceed 15.4 units per acre. Are we saying we're going to allow up to 15.4 units per acre?
If you'll notice that allowance is written under the conditional use list,
Yeah.
and could only be allowed through a conditional use permit process.
Okay, thank you.
And if I can just confirm. That same provision exists in the R2A zone that the neighborhood to the south is in.
Just one other thing that might bring up is the R2A, I believe, has animal rights. We're across the street. If we okay this, they won't have the rights, animal rights, so, because they won't be R2A.
Is that correct?
Yes and no. The R2A zone doesn't inherently have animal rights. It has the opportunity to gain animal rights through a public hearing and a conditional use permit.
Use.
This PUD zoning, though, would outright prohibit the keeping of livestock
Okay,
for this project development.
Yeah, right.
okay.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Does that include chickens?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess, council's pleasure, I guess I'd entertain a motion to approve the annexation, Annex 15-00001.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Next up would be the Comprehensive Plan Amendment 15-000001 to rezone it, or is that the, that'll be next, the zone change, okay.
Changing the neighborhoods.
Changing the neighborhood, is that correct?
Yeah, in the order of actions to be taken, you've got to assign the comprehensive plan land use designation before you can rezone it. So the comp plan piece is next.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the comprehensive plan amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilor Collins.
This is more of a question of curiosity, and I'm not exactly sure where to put it. With development like this, and maybe Travis or Captain Orr can tell me stress on the city when we start developing these areas when it comes to services that we provide, and maybe even a city streets, because I realize that the access into this area, at least for my access, is 10th Street going in and out, and that's already stressful for me to get in and out of there. But how does, when we change the comprehensive, or I shouldn't say change the comprehensive, but accept something like this into it and develop like this, how much more stress does that put on departments within our city? If this is fully developed 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
The fire department, as long as the access points we have, especially in this vicinity, we have direct access from Station 2, which would be the primary response down 16th. So it would put no additional load as long as the streets are built to the standards. So we have the egress and the ingress means, and then the water supply. So, you know, this is one of the things, I don't see it being an impedance on the fire department on the response of having this area be developed. Nor the size of an increase in calls for service.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? Okay, so all those in favor of the comprehensive plan amendment 15-00001, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Next up is a zone change. And this will be the zone change 15-000001. I know it's lumped together here, but we got to do the zone change and then the PUD, correct?
Yeah, because the PUD agreement, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that comes last.
That's in a draft form, so I don't think you can approve that tonight
Okay.
because it needs to be filled in before you can approve it. But the zone change and then the PUD, but you can't approve the draft agreement because it simply is not filled in with all of the requirements. So that would have to come back
We need
to
to do
you.
the zone change first.
Yes,
I guess that was my question.
that would be the
Okay.
order.
Entertain a motion to approve zone change. To Joel? Sorry?
I was just wanted to clarify, the zone change is the PUD.
Okay,
You're being asked to change the zoning from F1 and R1, area city impact, and from R2A city, all of those to planned unit
PUD.
development.
That's why they're
zoning.
combined.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. So everybody got that? Did I entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Counselor Blakey?
My question's along the line of what Mike's question was earlier, was you build it and they will come. Warner Avenue obviously could become it's already a busy road. It's not the widest street in the Orchards. I think it meets all the minimum standards, but lack of sidewalks up and down it. Somewhere down the road, if we are successful and we get a park built at one end of it, obviously that would be, as that development grows, and the usage of the park should go up substantially. So, you know, it's beyond our scope right now, but at some point in time, as a city council, maybe not our city council, but another city council down the road, is definitely going to have to start putting Warner on the radar screen as far as what's involved with upgrading of that street, widening it, curbing it, and putting the infrastructure in there to support public use.
Okay. That's a point well taken. I would add that when the school district first proposed building a school out there were many studies done on that and the impacts from 16th down to the potential high school site. So it's just all about money.
It's all about money.
Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the zone change and the PUD 15-000001, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. And now we have to vote on the preliminary plat. Thank you, Joel. So we have a copy of the preliminary plat in front of us. I'll entertain a motion to approve the preliminary plat as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Randall.
I still object to the short streets with cul-de-sacs. I think these should be through streets, but That's the only reason I'll vote no on the plat.
Okay. I guess I would offer up that directly across the street from my house is Cherry Tree Lane, and that is a cul-de-sac. Peachtree Lane is a cul-de-sac. 11th Street C is a cul-de-sac. We have them all over. So I don't know if it's really hampered any development in this town, but having been on a lot of these different projects, and I know Mr. Young didn't develop Estates at Canyon Crest, he certainly built quite a few houses out there, and there are new owners out there, and we've approved a preliminary plat for them as well that is not a through street. I'll be voting in favor, so. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that motion carries 6-1. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item A.
Pull item A, that'll be active agenda C. Anybody wish to move anything else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to read the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I will disclose that under vouchers payable, there was an expenditure by me that I was reimbursed for under vouchers.
Okay. Does that preclude him from voting?
I was told no.
It's
Okay.
just a reimbursable expense.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of reading the consent agenda as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Accepting the minutes of the February 18th Park and Recreation Commission, March 4th, 2015 Transportation Advisory Commission, and the February 11th, 2015 Youth Advisory Commission. Approving the administrative plat for the Business and Technology Park addition, the subdivision of 5 lots on 16.21 acres of undeveloped land located south of Home Depot. Approving Resolution 2015-21 by title only, a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Lewiston and Idaho Municipal Corporation and the City of Moscow, Idaho and Idaho Municipal Corporation, providing for mutual aid between the cities, authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest, respectively, said agreement and providing an effective date. Approving Resolution 2015-20 by title only, a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Lewiston and Idaho Municipal Corporation and the City of Pullman, Washington, a municipal corporation for the state of Washington, providing for mutual aid between the cities, authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest respectively said agreement and providing an effective date, and approving the vouchers payable dated February 27th, 2015 through March 12th, 2015 in the amount of $1,290,386.31.
Okay, councilors, the consent agenda has been read. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Moving on to our active agenda. We have vouchers payable to Albertsons from February 27, 2015 through March 12, 2015 in the amount of $232.90. I'll entertain a motion to approve vouchers payable to Albertsons.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, with Councilor Daniel abstaining. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 6-0-1 with Councilor Daniel abstaining. And I'll turn this over to Pro Tem Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item on the agenda is vouchers payable for early bird supply from February 27th, 15 through March 12th, 15 in the amount of $3.49. I'd entertain a motion to approve vouchers payable for early bird supply.
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Mayor Kleberg abstaining, or 6-0 with Mayor Kleberg abstaining. Mr. Mayor, I'd
Thank you,
hand the
Pro
meeting
Tem.
over to you.
I object that it wasn't enough, but Okay, next up is active agenda item C, and it's the city council minutes for the budget roundtable on February 28th and our work session on March 2nd.
Mr. Mayor, the reason I
Tim.
pulled this one off the consent agenda was if you turn to page 10, where it's going over the priorities, when it lists the priorities for under my name, the first thing that I said in my opening remarks were that my top priorities were still the streets and stormwater and infrastructure, and that we shouldn't put them on the back burner while we're waiting for the task forces to be created. I'd like to amend the minutes to have that included in here in this section.
Okay. Any further?
That's all.
Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Or entertain a motion
So
to
moved.
approve minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. That concludes our active agenda. Now on to unfinished and new business. City councilor comments. Do we have any councilor comments today? Councilor Blakey.
Just not necessarily tonight, but an update at some point from Chris Davies or any whoever may be the sources. When do we expect the 18th Avenue project to restart? Because I don't think they're done. But I'd like a little bit more information. I've had a couple neighbors ask about that and when that project will restart.
Update for perhaps our next work session, Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, I'll get a hold of Mr. Davies tomorrow. And if he has a straightforward, date, I can just email all of you and let you know when that's going to be.
Okay. Just other, Councilor Randall?
Just a comment. Just had somebody make a comment about the 18th Avenue and said, when can you do that in my neighborhood?
Councilor Collins?
Similar question. Driving around today with the weather that we had kind of made me think of the issue that we've had up in the orchards with the gas station and water drainage, and didn't know if we had an update on where we're at in that process, as well as some of the orchard neighborhoods that I believe we talked about as well that had potential issues or already have issues.
I think that Stinker Stations and
Rasco?
Tri-State.
Tri-State, sorry, have had discussions. So on this issue, since we last met on this, Mr. Davies alluded to that when I was talking with him a couple of weeks ago. So I'll get some more definitive stuff on that. We can make a report back to you on where that's going with that discussion with those folks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Blakey?
Just further asking a question down the road. It was last August or September, I brought up the weed control issue around the traffic circle, our new traffic circle, and keeping it nice. And so at that point in time, nothing had been done, and until we mentioned it, and then quickly it was cleaned up. Just recommending or suggesting whoever has ownership of that property and maintains it, that possibly some weed control be done now, some spraying of it, and getting a jump on that, and so we're not talking about it again later this summer.
Down there lately, is it a problem right at the moment, or?
No, but this is the time of year that you spray for the weeds.
Sure. I'll talk to them about
Yeah,
that.
you spray for weeds now. It's not a problem yet.
Okay.
Bob's a botanist.
Okay. Any other comments? I've got a follow-up on Councilor Collins. Same thing today, driving around. I'm now involved in outside sales. We had a couple of pretty good-sized events today. I wouldn't classify them as 10-year events, but it just amazes me. We still can't get people interested to be part of the long-term funding solution for the stormwater. It's going to be incumbent on this council and probably several other councils down the road. We have a stormwater problem in this town. It's not going to go away. It's not getting any better. And we really, truly, I'm glad we have some people, trying to address our long-term funding solutions for transportation. But the stormwater problem, I can just tell you, I think that we need to investigate perhaps getting the stakeholders involved again and looking at a fee structure that will be dedicated strictly for stormwater, a stormwater utility. Whether it's along the lines of Coeur d'Alene's, that seemed to has held up because they totally rewrote theirs after we got shot down in court. We need the money to pay for it, and we can't raise general taxes up anywhere near high enough to cover what we have to do in this town. 17th Street was, I could have taken my kayak down it again today. So, at about 2 o'clock. So, anyways, that's about all I got to say on that. Mr. Bennett.
Just the most recent information from Boise on the legislative session. It's uncertain, when they're going to actually bang the gavel. They're kind of lurching toward a conclusion down there, but usually it's the last week or two when you see the more significant bills come on the floor. And that's where, some trading goes back and forth. So we may still see something on transportation. We may still see something on teacher salaries. And, there are a couple other bills that are still hanging out there that haven't been completed yet on urban renewal and on collective bargaining. So we get periodic reports from both Representative Rushi and Senator Johnson on, what's happening down there. Initially, they were supposed to be done by the end of the week, but because of the inability to come to an agreement on the teacher pay issue, that could bleed over into the following week and maybe, take an additional week. We just don't know right at the moment. So.
Okay. Advisory board and commission appointments, do we have any this evening?
We are still searching for somebody for the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board. And I will make a note that I did not say last time is they do not have to be from the city of Lewiston. They can be from the local area.
That's okay.
We still have 2 positions open, solid waste.
And 2 on solid waste. And be inviting a gentleman to the urban forestry meeting tomorrow night, and thank you for bringing that up, that we do have an opening there and have had one for a little bit. And the gentleman does live in Clarkston, but he is on the LC's Arboretum Committee, and I think he might bring some valuable knowledge to the street trees and such that we have here in Lewiston. So I figured having him there at the meeting might get a chance for people to meet him and perhaps be bringing an appointment at that time. Yes?
We're going to have one opening on the library board within the next couple of months. Scott Funk is resigning after 9 years on the board.
Okay. As we get closer, we'll start either putting out a little blurb or talking about it every meeting we have. So, work session and agenda topics. Do we have any new ones that we want to bring up for April?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Randall.
Northwest Children's Home.
Northwest Children's Home.
And I plan to have some discussion at that work session. We don't have anything new at this point. We do not have the results of any investigation that was conducted by the Department of Health and Welfare at this point. We only have the materials that you already all have that were distributed by Mr. and Mrs. Eliason. But that should be a good starting point, at least, for some discussion.
Okay. I think that'd be wise and timely. Any others? Well, seeing none, we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.